What's up, everyone? Danny Wolf here, host of Audience First podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I'm joined by my partner, Ben Siegel. Ben is a master go-to-market pro, and he used to work at Gartner. And we're kicking off season 3 with a huge episode. We're here to challenge the traditional analyst model that's been around forever. Those broad reports and aggregated data can get you only so far, and they often miss the nuances that really count. Today in this episode, Ben and I are going to dig into why building direct relationships with security professionals through interviews, through focus groups, and through community-driven discussions helps vendors like you get deeper insights and build more authentic solutions. This hands-on approach is changing the game for how companies improve their GTM strategies, and we're going to share how we've been using these insights to drive innovation in our own business. So stick around, listen up. Welcome to Season 3 of Audience First Podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber, to better understand their buyers, what motivates them, and what they hate that vendors do. It's time to unmute your mic. Are you ready?
All right, welcome back to another episode of Audience First. I have a very special guest with us today who is not a stranger to the podcast. He is a second-time guest, my partner, Ben Siegel. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Danny. It's great to be here.
It is great to be here in New York.
Back in the city that never sleeps.
Yes.
And supposedly you didn't get much sleep last night, so
I did not.
we're off to let's say an okay start, but it'll progress over time.
It'll progress. We're used to it. We don't sleep much anyway in the middle of the week with all the work we're doing.
Unfortunately not.
But last night was actually pretty cool because I didn't expect it to just take some time to decompress and take a look at the harbor. Is it a harbor, a bay? I don't even know how to.
Yeah, it's the Hudson. So Danny was staying in Hoboken, where I live, and I am biased, but I believe it is the best view of New York City because it is unobstructed views.
Oh my gosh.
And
It was
just
beautiful.
gorgeous.
And I have in my phone, I have a picture of every of sunset, of sunrise, of the full moon, of it super dark. I mean, it changes by the hour, that cityscape, and I was just taken aback by the beauty of the cityscape. So thank you for letting me stay there and showing me that there's a cool side to New Jersey. I didn't know New Jersey was so cool.
New Jersey is cool. We are trying to shout it from the rafters here.
Yes. Well, today's going to be a special episode because we're kicking off season 3 with a really important topic. And I just kind of wanted to have a bidirectional conversation. One, to understand, where you came from, what with working at Gartner for, 6 years or so. And I kind of wanted to give my opinion and view of the security space and how go-to-market functions in the security space from a demand gen side. So this is going to be a special episode because we, again, like I said, we're kicking off season 3, but we're also going to be introducing some cool things that we've built in the past 6 months to a year. We've been working together for almost 2 years now, actually.
Yep.
So yeah, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. We're going to be grilling each other.
Perfect. So Danny, as we think about the vendor practitioner relationship, what do you find has been so difficult for vendors to create trust with buyers, to engage them in the right way, or more importantly, actually learn from them and understand what they're going through and how to build better products and services for them?
Yeah, so I have a lot of different answers for this specific question. All of them come with a long list of challenges, but I want to take a few steps back and look at the security space as a whole. When I entered the space in 2018, I quickly realized that there are two worlds bumping heads against each other in one large space with one core mission. That's to protect people, right? But you have one world, the vendor side, who is faced with aggressive growth goals. That comes with a series of challenges. And then you have another world, which is the buyer side, faced with also aggressive goals, which is keeping up with the pace of change, keeping up with adversaries, and protecting people. But those two goals kind of go against each other, if that makes sense. And so what I find is a challenge for vendors is we're dealing with people who are innately cautious. Vendors are up against the wall having to deal with aggressive growth goals. And so they're resorting to sometimes these shady tactics and outdated tactics in order to reach those growth goals, which are counterproductive to customer centricity. We're working kind of against each other, and we're in this kind of hamster wheel of trivial tactics, which just causes a big chaos in this space. Our goal as vendors is to persuade people to connect with the products and services we build for them. But buyers are so under the gun to keep up and to protect that, they're not wanting to connect with the vendors in the first place. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think what you're getting at is just their misaligned expectations.
Yeah, 100%.
So vendors are incentivized to grow at all costs.
Yeah.
Practitioners are essentially incentivized to mitigate costs and mitigate risk.
Yeah.
And so two parties with totally different agendas oftentimes finds just a total disconnect when you look at a vendor-practitioner relationship, which I think is what you've seen firsthand.
I've experienced it.
Yeah.
I've, fallen victim to resorting to some of those tactics too. And that's why we're actually sitting here, because I realized that it wasn't the right approach.
And I saw it firsthand too. So when I was an early member of Gartner's emerging tech team, we were working with tech and service providers, helping them across sales, marketing, and product. And I was frustrated. My clients were frustrated because there was this perceived value or perceived influence that essentially traditional research firms has, which is these analysts talk to my buyers. They need to know about us. They need to recommend us. They need to write about us. And oftentimes that's actually not the value prop, right? It's not that you're going to be in research or you're going to be mentioned. It's that essentially you're using these analysts as really voice of the customer data to build a better product or align your roadmap or understand the competitive landscape. On the marketing side, is this message going to resonate? So what does that look like? Showing your marketing campaigns, showing your website, showing your potentially sales emails or some of the engagements that we would do with analysts to say, is this going to resonate? And oftentimes, because there was a lack of a direct relationship between the marketer or the product leader with the actual people who they need to ultimately validate with, the actual practitioner doing the job, because they didn't have access to that person and because they were relying on someone who were making predictions or making recommendations essentially based on trends or aggregate data, it can't work for everyone. By nature of a magic quadrant, for example, if, let's just say, on the low end, 50% of vendors in a magic quadrant are clients, well, it's pretty difficult for those analysts who cover that space to provide personalized insight to each vendor without essentially breaking confidentiality or conflict of interest.
Yeah.
You as an entity can't serve so many different parties within a space because ultimately it's just not set up for success. And so one of the things that you and I are so passionate about is how do we remove this intermediary relationship into a direct relationship? Go to the people who are actively doing the job. Those are the people who ultimately are going to give you the highest quality information that you can execute on. And you're standing behind the actual data points that are relevant to who you sell to, who you build products for, rather than someone who covers the entire marketplace. It's just not personalized enough in order to grow and essentially navigate a very competitive marketplace in today's industry, especially in security now with so many vendors.
And that's the exact question that I was asking myself working in-house as a demand gen marketer is, how do I get those direct relationships? I was going to customer success. I was going to sales. I was checking up Salesforce, listening to gong calls. But one, there was internal gatekeeping. Secondly, there was also no context to any of the notes or the sales calls, right? Because, sales has their objective and demand gen and marketing have their objectives. I was trying to get on analyst calls too to understand buyer pain points, understand the ecosystem, understand our customers better, but we only had limited seats. Right. Product marketing and the CMO were the only ones who were invited to the calls. I never had a seat at the table when it came to analyst relations. And so that was super frustrating. Like how is a marketer or a salesperson able to 2x, 3x growth if they know little about the customer and they're not getting access to the customer? Right?
Or maybe the insight they're gathering is not really statistically significant. It's maybe specific to that organization or that customer type, which granted, we all make those types of decisions where we try to ultimately narrow down who's our ideal customer profile. Where does our product win? Where does it potentially lose? Who is it better for? Where does it potentially not meet the need? But to make actual strategic decisions at the marketing, sales, and product level, you need a lot of data points. You need to really actually have your internal teams collaborate on this information.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of access. Like, I don't have access to those potential practitioners. Obviously, they have access to clients, but oftentimes there's just this kind of fear of, I don't want to bring my client into our decision-making process, or I don't want to open up where we're struggling as a company because we want to exude confidence all the time. And there's also kind of a misaligned incentive. Yes, a customer wants to help you build a better product because that's going to benefit their team and their company over time, but they're also incredibly busy. And how much can they really engage with product teams when they have 60, 80 plus vendors in their stack? Yes, there's opportunities, but it's not a consistent feedback loop. And so oftentimes where it misses the mark is we're not actually getting the insight we need at the point in time we need it to ultimately make a confident decision or to execute our strategy.
Well, I mean, beyond that, do you think that, from your experience, do you think that analysts really understand the nuanced pain points of buyers? Or, I mean, can you take me kind of through that? How do they really articulate that or not?
By design, I think a lot of folks don't understand how traditional research firms even engage in their research methodology. So there's a lot of methodologies out there, but essentially it boils down to three components. One is input, analysis, and output. Most marketers or product leads or those who work with traditional research firms, they look at Gartner or Forrester, 451 Research, IDC, as traditionally the input. So we're going to engage with an analyst. We're going to get a sense of where's the state of the marketplace, what are buyers looking for in a product or solution. And oftentimes that's gathered after 6 to 12 months of research collection. So before a report comes out, it could be 6 to 12 months before you actually get the features and functionality across vendors, where ultimately the prediction of the market is moving. And so I think traditional research firms is great for input to get a sense, but it's not great for personalization. What does this mean to my company? And in a very saturated marketplace, like most, domain securities are, you need the personalized recommendations. And oftentimes that happens in-house because it's a competitive advantage. If every company in a Magic Quadrant or in a market guide, let's say, has access to the same analysts and gets the same package recommendations, well, then it's not really unique. You're not actually executing on unique competitive advantage or moats. You're executing on what I would consider would be table stakes knowledge for what the market essentially knows. And that is 6 to 12 months in the future when you receive it. Whereas the organizations who are actually gathering this intelligence directly from their clients' perspective through third-party networks like we've been spearheading and championing, ultimately that research lifecycle is much, much faster. They can access the insight they need. They know it's trustworthy because it comes from the person that they ultimately want to work with or sell to already. that information can be actually implemented much faster because they're catching the person at the point in time when they're experiencing that challenge, or they have a recommendation based on something going on in their company that is driving that decision. And it really now is a game of speed of execution. If you don't have access and you can't gather the insight fast enough, there's going to be a competitor who is faster and ultimately is making decisions that are going to ultimately have better competitive advantage than you as a company.
I think it's speed of execution, but I also think it's smarter spending and investment as well. The more and more that we talk to customers and prospects and just our community, the more we understand that they're not wanting to reinvest in the traditional analyst model because of the speed, because of how much money that it costs, and because of the value or lack thereof, right? They're not getting the value from the engagement. And so many are looking for alternative methods to extract data, to extract qualitative data, to understand buyers, to connect and engage with buyers.
And I think there's also this perceived influence that is misaligned. And what I mean by that is a lot of vendors look at traditional research firms as, oh, they have really strong influence with our prospective clients. Like, our prospective clients actually make product decisions solely based off of what a traditional research firm tells them. And what we know, having built the CyberNest and built our own security community, and we're a part of a lot of other communities, a lot of product decisions are made largely not based on a report or based on an analyst call. It might be influential in getting a sense of who's in the market. But now CISOs are really shouting from the rafters, stop selling me, sell my team. They're the ones that are going to use this tool and bring it to me anyways. Those folks typically don't have access to traditional research firm based on how the seat-based design is set up. It's just cost prohibitive. So we think that analysts are influencing CISOs and things like that, whereas CISOs are actually leveraging internal communities at the same time. They're leaning on their teams. And so why are we putting so many eggs in the basket of going, so long as this firm knows about us and will write about us, that will be what will drive that growth for the next 2 to 5 years? It's actually not happening that way when you look at the data and when you talk to actual practitioners. It's not why they're making decisions. And I can't stress that enough for those who are listening, is it's a perceived influence. We think that by nature of having one person who talks to a lot or covers a lot of different subsegments, that it will extend our reach. But if everyone's taking that strategy and it's not effective, then ultimately you have to build it in-house. You have to build the capabilities to make those direct relationships and use those relationships to feed the insight that drives your marketing, your sales, your product.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm actually remembering one episode. It was back in 2022 when I asked a CISO, well, how do you evaluate vendors? And he kind of was a little bit snarky and sarcastically said, well, I look at Gartner, ha ha ha. He was sarcastic on purpose. The peer communities, to your point, is a strong source of validation for the buyer community.
And these are companies that have been around a very long time. And by nature of that, they built very strong brands. And ultimately, market shifts and market dynamics and buyer dynamics change over time. And the main driver of that is the fact that more security leaders have access to more information than they ever had before. Whereas 20, 15, 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of information about who is in the space. There wasn't a lot of platforms or channels where you could even learn about new products and services. And so a lot of the way sales was done was outbound. Let's go to conferences, let's bang down doors, let's educate the market. And if everyone's educating the market through outbound, well, we need an internal resource or a third-party resource like a traditional research firm to validate the claims.
Well, I think beyond that also, and the more I spend time online, right? In this past 3 years, I've just been surfing online, doing my own OSINT, talking to people, checking out LinkedIn. Practitioners and C-level executives in the security organization are more vocal as well, are more approachable too. They're more open to collaboration because they understand that they play an integral part in progress maintenance in this space. And being able to collaborate is part of that goal, right? I think it's refreshing because there's this stigma that, buyers are not approachable. Again, that's one of the challenges that we have as go-to-market teams is they're innately cautious, but really more and more are starting to become more accessible. They understand the value of collaboration. They understand marketing functions, marketing goals, the business function as well as security practitioners are supposed to translate security to the business. It's a great opportunity now, especially to start building the network as a go-to-market professional, reaching out to them, leaning into feedback calls, leaning into curiosity and asking open-ended questions in order to improve the customer experience. It's prime time now for us to be more direct in our approach to buyers versus leaning on those third-party intermediaries to do that for us.
I couldn't agree more. And for the marketers that hear that and are like, I 100% agree with you, how do we empower them to create that internal change? Is it solely with marketers alone? Is it with leadership? Is it with other cross-functional teams? How would you approach it?
So this is a really great question. I talk about mindset shift and inner and outer shift a lot on the podcast and on LinkedIn. Really, there has to be an inner shift as us individuals and also within the organization culturally. We have to be open to new models of engagement, right? Check out the status quo tactics and focus on new ways of engaging customers. There has to be a shift to customer centricity. More and more organizations are realizing that. I mean, the past 3 years at least, that's a trend that organizations are going to shift to. So there has to be a cultural shift. Second, I noted this because this is a very important segment. There has to be accessible training programs for go-to-market teams on how to actually effectively do research and engage with customers.
Yep.
It's not, let's just get on a phone and talk about whatever. There has to be a framework and a methodology to interviewing customers so that you're able to effectively extract the right data points that are going to tie back to your business goals and objectives. So we talked about cultural shift in the organization. We talked about training in the organization. But as individuals, we have to really nurture our curiosity, be passionate about learning about individuals, nurture our empathy. Because as marketers or go-to-market professionals, that has to be a core characteristic, in my opinion, right? Wanting to truly understand the people we care about.
It feels like the intention is there, but maybe the tactics are missing.
Yeah.
Like as a industry, we're struggling to understand how to do customer research well. Or it sounds like we're at a unique point where people understand the value of it, but there's still this reluctance. And like, why do you feel like there is still this reluctance to engage in customer research, to focus all your attention on voice of the customer data is going to be the input to every decision we make, or more importantly, how we set our strategy across marketing, sales, and product?
Well, I frankly don't know if everybody knows what they don't know, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like customer research is even an adopted term in cyber marketing or in sort of the cyberspace?
I think it's becoming increasingly adopted. Depending on the particular function in the go-to-market team, it means something different. There's like, oh, well, as a salesperson, let's do discovery. I mean, that's in essence customer research. Or as product, let's do user research. As marketing, let's do market research, but or audience research. I mean, it depends on the particular use case and need for that go-to-market professional. But research as a whole is a responsibility of everybody in the vendor space.
Yep.
Everybody from the founder down to HR should be doing customer research, because at the end of the day, the goal is bottom line, customer experience, customer success.
By design, it's really difficult to be like the domain expert naturally. Like we've traditionally leaned on product teams to be kind of like the domain expert, or like the sales engineer is the hybrid between kind of the more tech focused, but also kind of really knows the experience of the user. And then, yes, there's a sales component, but they're kind of the domain expert. And for marketing teams specifically, when I was working for an agency that was solely focused on, cyber marketing, one of the challenges that I identified is there's not a lot of technical writers or folks who are actually, understand the customer really deeply, understand how the product works really deeply. And oftentimes that's the marketing materials that a lot of practitioners really want. We see that at CyberNest, the types of content that resonate most are really deep technical reports or more architecture framework driven versus your traditional sort of a marketing kind of value prop. And so I think by design, it puts a lot of pressure on growth teams to be like, do we have the capabilities in-house to actually know our customers super well? And if we don't, where can we get that? Where can we go and actually gather that type of intelligence at scale, or more importantly, like fast?
Yeah.
I think speed of execution is where I've seen a lot of it break down is, we're getting this insight on a biannual basis or annual basis. And maybe that's good to set the direction for next year, but customer dynamics are changing every single day. And so there's too much of a gap in the way that you can actually gather the intelligence.
And there's too much of a risk to take that approach and rely on those long time frames. What do you think is the impact of removing the middle man or woman, the analyst, and going direct to the buyer?
So, I think this is the ultimate disruption, which is there are a lot of security leaders who innately, and they always done this, innately understand the value of helping vendors build better products and services.
Yeah.
There's not a single security practitioner I've spoken to that doesn't find a ton of value in the vendors they work with. They could not do their job without it. The challenge is ultimately, if we're relying on these vendors for our security and protection of our company, well, then we need to have a bigger voice, a bigger say in how that product operates, both for our specific use cases, but also for the industry at large.
Right.
And so innately, there is an absolute desire, which I think is great. I think what's been a challenge so far is we haven't found the right business models or the right, essentially, governance in place to actually facilitate that knowledge sharing. And that's what we've been focused on for the past 2 years, is essentially creating a model where security leaders can engage with vendors, and they actually want to engage with vendors. They want to be compensated for their knowledge and insight. That's very important because naturally we need to align the incentive. Otherwise, oftentimes in-house teams go, how do we get our existing customers to give us feedback, right? And there's a lot of kind of internal incentivization, but it has to come through a third-party research agency to be the intermediary between that, because we can align the right incentive to the security leader. At the same time, we can align the right incentive to the vendor organization. And so in addition to being compensated for their knowledge and insight, the biggest aha moment is the fact that those who you actually are making decisions about, those that you're actually wanting to understand directly from, is now accessible to product teams. It's accessible to marketing and sales teams now through CyberSynapse, which is what you and I have been working on for the past 8+ months. And so bringing that to market is a very exciting development, not just for us, but also for the industry, which is security leaders can engage in these types of research-based programs and, more importantly, share their knowledge, share their insight, advance the industry. They can also be compensated for their time, which is extremely important to keep things truly unbiased and unfiltered, because if you're getting paid to share your honest feedback, there's no incentive not to be honest. Whereas traditionally, we've kind of done roundabout ways of getting insight, and oftentimes it's been misaligned. On the flip side, vendors now have another tool in the tool chest where they can go directly to practitioners and actually validate the things that are keeping them up at night, the things that the organization is trying to quickly address. They now have a solution to do it, and it's with the highest trust and highest relevance to them.
You talk about accessibility. You talk about the wisdom that we're basically giving to the vendor space. But from a high level, I think we've learned from the challenges that we face, both on the analyst side and on the demand gen or the go-to-market side. Really what we're trying to do is to democratize customer research for the vendors, is not make it just siloed to one particular organization, but allow that to spread throughout the whole organization in order to more predictably and scalably grow as a company. And we're trying to do that not just from connecting with the customer, but really focusing on that progress maintenance, which is critical in this industry, customer feedback loops. So like, yeah, we can connect you with the customer and the buyers, but beyond that, we can give you the playbooks
Yes.
to run research. We can also give you the opportunity to reassess what you've already implemented through those recommendations. And I think that's important because the more I think about my experience as a marketer, I had access to so much data, but it just collected dust.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything with the data. We spent so much money on reports, on calls, on connecting with customers, but then what? Like nothing happened with it. If I had known how to actually operationalize that data, I mean, we would have been, the companies I worked for, we would have been in a much better spot much sooner. The reason why there was that barrier is because we just didn't know how to do that, right? You know, there were particular research practitioners who knew how to do that, but then you had to hire them, If we can get people, non-traditional researchers, quote unquote, to do that and learn how to do that through one platform, I mean, I think we've solved a lot of problems, to be honest.
Totally. And I think we've outsourced a lot of critical functions that remove us from the customer entirely.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of organizations will realize as they start to go direct and really build this in-house capability and use, networks like CyberSynapse, if you choose to, will be that this is a competitive advantage to your company. You should not be outsourcing all of your strategic insight and customer insight to research firms that by design are not set up to actually deliver personalized recommendations and insight to your company specifically. It's not set up to win. It is set up to fail because the value prop is essentially aligned to all companies in the space. And again, by design, those firms exist to help IT and security leaders make decisions.
Yep.
Those decisions are actually changing, which we talked about, but more importantly, it can't work for everyone because what one analyst will tell one company is probably very similar to what they're telling you. Why are they incentivized to tell you something uniquely specific to you? Oftentimes they can't. And so the only method that will work is by going directly to those that you serve, engaging them through the right playbooks that you mentioned, operating this type of research program directly, and more importantly, using that insight and that knowledge with our help. We support companies in that way too. We do research and analysis as well.
Yes.
So that this is specific to your company, specific to your product, and it's a competitive advantage because nobody else has it.
I want to ask a really critical question, and I'm going through our talking points here, which we have a shitload of talking points, which, by the way, we're not going to get through all this today, but we're going to have an extra article that's going to go through that. We see a lot of customers and prospects understanding the value, coming on board with us, really excited about the product. But we also see some potential customers actually not necessarily objecting, but still stuck in the mindset that, well, we need to double down on the traditional analyst model. Why do organizations continue to trust the analysts over their own buyers, right? I know it's a hard question to answer, but I want your opinion.
It's a hard question to ask. I think there's a combination of a herd mentality, which is, if others are doing this, it must work or must be successful. I think we see that in, events as well, with, hey, I didn't get a lot of traction with our booth, but boy, we really can't not be there because that's going to look a certain way, like maybe we're not doing well, or if our competitors are there, we have to do it too. And so I would challenge the industry to think about the tactics, look at the data, look at the attribution. Are these things working for you?
Yeah.
And if they're not working for you, then understand that it's not your fault that it's not working for you. It's because the way the system is set up by design removes you directly from those who actually can be the biggest insight to the organization. And yes, many organizations rely on their customers and they leverage that internal insight. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things you want to that you don't want to validate with your customers that you do want to validate with your target audience, with your target ICP.
Yeah.
And that's where organizations who adopt that will actually thrive. There's not a single person here that would deny if you told me I can build a relationship with one person or maybe 3 or 4, and that person is going to talk to thousands. By design, you go, okay, that's going to save me a lot of time. That's going to actually, why wouldn't I invest in that?
Yeah.
But again, the way that they're influencing those thousands of conversations are not specific to your organization. They're based on aggregate data, on aggregate trends. They're more so receiving inbound consultations from IT and security leaders, less about what's going on in their organizations. Like traditional research firms are not set up to help you actually build your security program. They're intended to help you select technology. And we always talk about this. There's people, process, technology.
Yep.
It's one piece.
Yeah.
So where is that insight and data on the people aspect, on the process aspect of security teams?
So good.
That's where direct research actually thrives, because you're actually talking to the person who's implementing that process, who's thinking about their people and staff augmentation and what's working. They're not solely thinking about technology all the time.
Right.
And so I think it's been misaligned models, it's been misaligned expectation, and I think it's been a lot of this herd mentality of, well, if others are doing it, it must be working and it has to work.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are interested in alternative, we want to show you the power of what we can do. We want to show you the power of going direct to a security leader and engaging them in a research-based engagement, and the learnings that will come from that, and then how you can actually implement those learnings at scale is where we are focused as a company.
100%. I'm the prime example of that, right? I doubled down on that customer research in-house. I never had a seat at the table before. Once I did that for a good 3 to 6 months, all of a sudden, I was getting invited to the calls.
Yeah.
I was heard. We implemented specific tactics and strategies based off of the data that I collected. We increased opportunity creation. We increased trust with the customers in such a short period of time. I mean, if I had CyberSynapse back when I was working in-house, wow, the reality would have looked so much different. I mean, frankly, I'm glad I didn't have it then, because here we are now building this awesome product. But I learned a lot in a very short period of time by systematizing it. We started somewhere. We built it into Audience First as a service company. Now we built it into CyberSynapse as a platform, as a product. I mean, I think the sky is the limit for us. I know a lot of people are super excited about this. We have customers who are thrilled to work with us and to connect with our experts. How many experts do we have now?
We have 70 plus who are onboarded. We have over 600 in CyberNest community, and that's largely where we go to vet experts and ensure that this is the right fit for them, and also for the types of engagements that we're trying to conduct. And this took a long time. This wasn't an easy overnight thing. I mean, it was, we talk about building community and building relationships, but underneath that, it's actually finding what motivates practitioners. What do they actually need?
Yeah.
Why hasn't the traditional methods or existing companies haven't served them well? And, that took over 2 years of data gathering to understand that. On the flip side, you've been leading marketing teams. You've went out on your own to start an agency. Only a crazy person, starts a business and bets on themselves. And so you wouldn't have done that if you weren't so passionate about how, while it's not easy to do, it is going to actually be the biggest metric of success for the organization. And if I was still at Gartner and my clients were telling me that they could go directly to practitioners and show their messaging and get feedback, or show their product roadmap and get feedback, well, it would be pretty difficult to kind of lead my team.
Yeah.
Because we were relying heavily on this intermediary process of, well, because they can't do that on their own, they need our analysts. They need our team to facilitate that. And, my core mission was, while it's not serving my customers today, if we could build that model for them, how better would it be at serving them? And we're starting to see that with the clients we're working with, and how it's resonating in the marketplace because it just makes absolute sense of, well, I don't need to rely on an intermediary anymore. I can go direct.
Two crazy people walk into a bar and then meet each other.
Totally.
And then build another bonkers product. Well, we're just off the wall.
Well, I
No.
think when you're so excited about delivering something that ultimately you felt like you didn't have yourself,
Yeah.
it's very motivating to go, why is this not here and how do we make it a reality? We both connected in that way.
Oh, 100%.
In making sure that we could actually serve the industry the right way. And more importantly, build something that truly will be defensible in the sense of it's an always on tactic.
Yeah.
It's always on for marketers and salespeople and product teams to tap into that knowledge when they need it. Not the 6 to 12 month research process, on demand when they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And as product decisions or marketing decisions or sales decisions are being made every single day, every week, every quarter, you need that insight now.
Yeah.
You need it quickly.
Yep.
And we want to be at the forefront of powering that for companies.
I think what's beautiful about this venture is that we both built a business organically through credibility and trust with both the vendor community and the buyer community. And we've built it in public to a certain degree too. So we've gotten a lot of validation and feedback on what's really hurting right now. So we didn't build a product because we wanted to build a product. We built a product based on a really deep need and through personal experience too. Like we've been there. We know what you're going through, and we want to solve that problem quick and efficiently because we understand a lot of the challenges and barriers that are occurring right now in such a volatile market. Just yesterday, I was talking to some people and how challenging it is from a vendor side and even from a practitioner side.
Yeah, I mean, we eat our own dog food.
Yeah.
So, we can sit here and say this is how it should be done. And, it's not easy, but there's a solution. At the same time, the solution for both of us came from experiencing the problem, actually doing the interviews.
Yeah.
CyberNest has grown now over the past 2 years, but it started as a small group of 10 to 15 CISOs, and that grew to 50. And then, now we're approaching 600. And we're not only for CISOs, we do have security engineers and security architects, and trying to democratize access to quality, trusted information in an industry, really leveraging your peers to do so.
Yeah.
Because we feel like, when our members agree, that the best information on how to build your program is through how others are building their program.
Right.
I think just that quality, that trust is what's driving a lot of these decisions. And it's all because of the direct relationship from those who are doing it every day, not those who maybe did it in the past or are kind of learning how others are doing it and kind of positioning themselves as the expert. It's those that are doing it every single day. They're the ones that you want to talk to.
100%. For our audience listening, anybody who wants to take a look at CyberSynapse, visit cybersynapse.io. We'd love to take you through the platform, understand what it is you need to know, and connect you with the right people. I mean, we're ready to go. The product is live. We're always looking to improve and get feedback as well. So by all means, come on in. I'm excited. This is going to be a really good year for us, I think. Yeah. We started off really strong. We have customers already. We have prospects who are inquiring and evaluating us right now. And I think given where we are now, looking forward into 2025, what with innovation and technology now, the things that we're going to be doing on the product roadmap, I think is going to really change the game for how vendors engage with buyers and how buyers also engage with vendors as
how
well.
They collect that insight, how they analyze that insight, how
100%.
They actually make decisions based on it. We want to partner with organizations who not just trust us, but also they know that we're not influencing product decisions. That's not what our company does. What we're doing is understanding where you're experiencing growth challenges, where are you making very critical, high ticket decisions that ultimately, in the case they don't go well, they're going to cost the business a lot of money or potentially the team a lot of credibility. And those are the things that we're working with clients to understand. And then we're building research agendas and playbooks based on those things to actually help you validate that, so then you can execute it on it. So one of the challenges I always experience while working at a traditional research firm is every vendor engagement would look at us as, well, we need to just show what's great all the time, never what's bad, because we don't want to potentially, influence something negative that could potentially hurtful to our company. And by design, that's not our value prop.
That's bias, though. Like,
Correct. The people who are going to validate are the people who are actually, in the role, the actual practitioner. They're the best people who want to work with people who want to improve. They want to work with companies who take feedback and execute on it.
Right.
They don't want to work with companies who tell them what the product should be or tell them how to do their jobs, and they're unwilling to improve. And so in that sense, it's critical that, yes, these are potential clients, but more importantly, they're people who can actually influence your strategy. So let's approach the conversation from not a point of vulnerability, but from a point of insight.
100%. All right, we're headed towards the end of the episode. I'd love to continue for another 3 hours, but we're limited on time here. So any imparting thoughts that you want to share with the audience today?
I would say that there is power in really doing your own research.
Yeah.
Look at the things you're doing now and really look at, is it working? Look at the data. Look at, was the expectations for why we invested in this tool or invested in this process, is it actually driving towards the things that are KPIs for the business? And if they're not, most times it's because there's some unanswered growth lever or unanswered voice of the customer data that's missing that ultimately is going to help your team execute more effectively. And so I would be a lot more critical of the things that are both working, why are they working, and also things that aren't working, why are they not working? And that's typically where we see a lot of our best conversations with both existing and prospective clients is when they know what's working and then they know what's not working, we can build out and replicate what continues to work, but more importantly, look at the things that are not working and use voice of the customer data to support it.
If you're interested in becoming more curious, just in general, as a go-to-market professional, reach out if you need some advice.
Yeah.
We are deeply curious individuals. We have experts who are deeply curious. So if you need advice on how to start your customer research journey or how to better engage skeptical buyers, we can give you advice, no strings attached. If you do want to get a demo of CyberSynapse, again, visit cybersynapse.io. We'd love to take you through that. Yeah, this is going to be an awesome season. This is going to be an awesome year. I'm really excited to continue on this journey. We had you on the show three months ago or something like that, back in July. And we've,
on this couch too.
On this couch, we've come strides since then. So yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to continue on into 2025 super strong. So let's get it. All right, this has been another episode of Audience First. We are out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.